It's Monday, May 4th, and today on the live stream, I'll be working on implementing a PubSub push handler with Cloud Run to bring our GCS file notifications into BigQuery. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the live stream on Adventures in the Cloud, where we explore new and interesting concepts, tools, and ideas in the cloud. My name is Yufeng, and today, as part of our Machine in Production series, we'll be looking at how to implement a PubSub handler in Cloud Run. Now, this live stream, as I mentioned, is part of Machine Learning in Production. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, it's a series of videos providing a behind the scenes look at the process of building out data and machine learning infrastructure. And along the way, we'll encounter everything from data storage, web development, networking, security, scalability, and of course, machine learning. So let's dive into today's topic, all about PubSub and how to kind of deal with the outputs from a cloud storage notification. But before we do, I want to remind folks that next episode, Wednesday, same time, Felipe and I are back when we are premiering the data show. And so for our first episode, we'll be diving deeper into that Data Studio dashboard that we explored last time and add more information about all those fancy transformations he did in SQL to make the data set better and make it easier to visualize and make a better visualization out of it. So I'm really excited to check that out. And I hear he's fixed that Google Maps issue that we discovered last time. So we'll definitely talk more with him about that and see how he got around that. And today being May the 4th, it is Star Wars Day in some parts of the world. And I was really excited to hear that on Disney Plus, Rise of Skywalker is out. And the last episode, the finale of Clone Wars Season 7 is also out, so I'll definitely be catching that at some point in the next coming days, just to stay up with the times. So with that out of the way, I guess quote-unquote announcements, let's get into it. Cloud Run can handle our kind of PubSub outputs pretty well. And last time I debated a little bit about what I should use, right? We considered handling it in our existing Kubernetes cluster. We could go the other way and all the way down to the other side and just do it in Cloud Functions. Have something that is extremely bare bones and you just submit the code and it just handles everything for us. And Cloud Run is kind of a happy medium. I'm not trying to say that this is the one way to do something in this case, but I think it's suitable. At least my gut instinct is that we should go this way. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see if I'm wrong. In terms of the content that will be kind of following this episode, this live stream, I kind of have two different guides. It's kind of interesting that the documentation has two relevant pages that both cover sort of the same thing we're talking about, but in slightly different ways, and I'll be flipping between them to compare them. So I'll drop those links in the live stream as well as in the description after the video. So there's that first one. This is all about using PubSub for notifications in the cloud. And then this one is all about triggering a triggering Cloud Run from a PubSub push notification. So you can see in the table of contents here that they both cover sort of similar topics, but they go into depth on different things, right? The first one is all about kind of the nitty-gritty of the storage aspect of things. So you can see that the docs, it's under cloud storage. So this is actually a subpage of the cloud storage docs, and it tells us a lot about the notifications, the event types, all of these details about the notification types. Whereas the other one is all about actually triggering from PubSub, and this is in the Cloud Run documentation itself. What's also interesting is there's actually a third one. I'm trying to find it. Is it here? No, this is GKE. Yeah, this is Kubernetes engine. I was poking around with this at one point. And then this one is docs tutorials PubSub. I think that's the same as one we're looking at. Docs. Oh, that's right. That's what it was. So this one is let's see, where is it on here? It's under tutorials inside of the PubSub pages. So I'll paste that one here as well. So we have 3 different things. One is covering, you can see here, docs run docs triggering. So this is all about triggering. And then here, this one using Cloud PubSub is way down here at the bottom in tutorials. So you can see on the side menu, the first one was in the how-to guide section under trigger. And then the second one was down here under tutorials using Cloud PubSub. And the third one's not in Cloud Run at all. You got to back out to the Cloud Storage documentation. And we'll be using this page to learn more about the outputs of these notification handlers. So these two, which I think are the first and third, no, the second and third links that I posted, both of them are in the Cloud Run docs, are very, very similar. If I scroll to the, whoa, I can scroll past the top. That's amazing. I'm going to refresh that page, fix that UI glitch. I don't know how that happened. Oh, wow, no, it's just actually just glitched. That's funny. Somebody on the front end team, fix this, please. And let's see, this one doesn't really, oh, it does have a table of contents. Good. So this is the kind of high-level tutorial around using PubSub with Cloud Run. And the project we'll be using here, again, is the project we haven't, I haven't implemented this in yet, of course, but, and I'm keeping a running doc here of our process. And what we'll do is, I think the first thing we'll want to do is create a new, let's see, which file is this under again? I never remember. Right, so it's this one, MLM prod, yada, 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 yada. Great. So first thing we want to do is set all of these exports. Oh, I'm not in the right folder again, aren't I? Well, these are okay because this is all independent of the path. I believe this line is incorrect. I need to fix this. The folder we actually want to be in is this one. And so let's update that real quick. And good. And so I don't think I've created a PyEnv environment in this one quite yet. PyEnv virtual env. Let's see, I think we're still, yeah, we're still in Python 3.7. Created, great. And so now we should be able to source activate our Python environment. Way to go, me. What did I do wrong? Looking in links, requirement already satisfied, blah, 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 blah. Is it because I always mess up this command? I think I did it right though. Create an environment. Do I have to include the version in order to make that work? Perhaps. 3.7.4. Yes, I know it already exists, but it's in a different folder. Can I activate it anyway? Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. So that's the beauty of PyEnv, I guess, is that it doesn't, I don't need to actually have it be in the same folder to make it work. Good, good. And what I wanted to do is we should make the new folder here called PubSub listener run. So we want to, it's a PubSub, we're listening, and it's implemented in Cloud Run. So make dir this. And so now if we go back to our guide, the one I'm going to start with is the one that is, where did it go? Not docs triggering, but docs tutorial. So this first one, start with this one. Because it's intended to be the most kind of starting point, and then we'll kind of refer to the triggering doc as we go down. So the first thing we want to do, following along, is we have to enable Cloud Run. So in my Cloud console, I haven't even enabled the Cloud Run API. So it's super from the ground up right here. So we start Cloud Run, let that, it lets me set a bunch of stuff. I haven't had to do this before. Cloud Run fully managed. API is being enabled. Good. Let that spin for a while. A lot of times there's long running tasks or medium length running tasks. And so it gives you a chance to flip back and forth and see what the next thing we need to be doing is. Let's see. We already set our project. We set our region. We don't need to set our cluster because we're running fully managed Cloud Run. And this is all right, finished. It looks like it's finished. Let's I guess I click next. Ooh, it's yelling at me. Region. Oh, I have to pick a region? Sure, but it'd be great if I could click on it. Oh, come on now. Let me go back. What happens if I go back? Okay, it just dropped me into a create service view for some reason. Okay, so it's enabled. That's the important part. And then we want to create our PubSub topic. So I'm going to open couple of things here. We have our cloud storage browser, and we want this is an interesting situation I'm in, because if you'll recall, I created this bucket in the other project, and so part of me wonders whether we want to refer to that bucket or we want to refer to this bucket, and whether cross project GCS bucket like signaling works. I don't necessarily want to chance it. So we might just make a new bucket and have it trigger on that for the purposes of this video. And if somebody spots PubSub here, that would be great. Come on, where is PubSub? Here is PubSub. So I want to confirm that I don't have any topics created yet that we're using here. These are all random other things I've made. And you can tell, well, can't necessarily tell, but I remember a lot of these, or at least some of these, but none of these are relevant to what we're trying to do. So if we want to create a topic, we're going to run gcloud pubsub topics create, and so that's here. Push endpoint on Cloud Run, some guidance here. Yeah, I had some notes on this. Okay, so I don't think I included that command, so that's perfect. We can add that here. So the first thing we want to do is create a topic in PubSub. So we can call it new file, right? Ooh, that has a terrible spelling of the word file. So let's run that. Let that do its thing. I'll actually make this a little bit smaller so we can see kind of its progress down here as we refer back and forth. And we're going to use the Python sample code. And let's just head on over to this page. Right, so let's see, where should we put that? Put it here. And then inside of this folder, they want Python doc samples run PubSub, Python run away. Whoa, PubSub. All right, here we are. Here's the code we're looking for. And one of the nice things about this is I don't necessarily always get clone the code the way they tell us to, because I'll oftentimes navigate into the directory and then kind of see what they're having us do. This is a pretty simple repo. You could just clone the whole thing, but it's just like you get the entire repository. What I really want is just this folder of a handful of files. And I know there's ways to do a, what is it? Like where you clone repo and you don't clone the whole thing. There's a sparse something like that, right? But the one we want is main.py, and of course we could click on here and view on GitHub directly. And it talks about we import all these things. So let's make this file vim main.py. And one of the things I noticed when I was fiddling around with this a little bit was that we can call it other things. Like we don't have to call it main.py, but it is usually a pretty decent idea. I'm also noticing I put this in the wrong folder. I didn't cd into the PubSub listener run, so I'm going to see if this drags. Yeah, I want to move that over. Great. All right. Works, I guess. Do whatever works. And we can see in the code that, this is the part that's sampled here, and you can see the start and end. So that's how these samples are populated into the page. And then you have this other piece of sample code, which we see down below. And what's tricky here is if I just take these two directly off the website, it won't run because you can see it ends here, and we actually are missing this bit of code. So what we really want is this whole thing, either in blocks or otherwise. If we don't want these little flags on them, we can delete them and save that and clean up the spacing a tad. And then what we're doing here is it takes a message, and what I like about this sample code is that it handles some of the basic error processing for us. It says this whole envelope thing, it gets the JSON, it takes care of making sure there's something in it. It does just some of the boilerplate code for us so that we can focus on unpacking that PubSub message. Now let's do this first version, and then we'll deal with kind of connecting it to the cloud storage handler, because what this is going to do is this demo purely focuses on making a PubSub handler that can react to something, generically speaking, not necessarily the something that we want. And so you can see in this Docker file, it's very similar to what we've had before. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to let's cd into the right directory first, and then let's touch a Docker file and paste that in. I'm going to change this back to Python 3.7 Slim in order to match A, what we've used before, but B, to match my local environment where I'm running Python 3.7 at this time. We have a requirements.txt that it's going to pull in. This is, I'm both making an argument for and against directly Git cloning versus not, because I'm going to end up sort of having to pull a lot of this stuff in manually anyway. But really all I need is Junicorn and Flask. So I'll probably just do that manually. Vim requirements.txt. Some might call this a glutton for punishment, because who knows what's going to happen here. And you'll notice I left out the PyTest stuff. I know I'm version 3.0 and above rather, but I'm not running PyTest in here. I'm not going to take in like the requirements test things either. All right, we got the Docker file. I am going to pull in some of these git ignore and docker ignore files because they're handy. We definitely got bitten by them before. So save that, and we're going to vim docker ignore. Oh, that's gcloud ignore. This is docker ignore, because all of those Python cache and let's see, all the PyCache folders can really mess us up. So gcloud ignore. And I'm starting to think I should make a little something where I can like inject these 3 files in from like anywhere, right? That would be super handy. It'd be a nice little, get me ignores, and you could like check off the ones you want, and it's like boom, git download, and there it is. Load it straight in. A nice little like command line tool. You could, run it. It's like get ignores, and then you could just set different flags of just like, I want flags for gcloud, git, docker, and then it just automatically pushes those files into your folder. Not a bad idea. I don't know, maybe folks listening are like, we don't need that. All right, let's see. Let's push that code. This is the cool thing about Cloud Run is, for those who have been watching this live stream, you know that we've definitely spent some time dealing with getting our code onto a running environment and kind of struggling with that at various points in time. So This is kind of nice. Let's just put it above here. I thought I had a cloud run. Let's call it build and run. And we're going to change this project ID. Oh, we have the project ID actually. Yeah, I set it as an environment variable earlier. Project ID. So we can take advantage of that and just add that $sign there. And we're going to call it PubSub listener to be consistent with the folder name, though of course you wouldn't have to be. Let's run this, see what happens. And then the deploy command, let's start copying that over and messing around with that. We want gcloud deploy PubSub listener, let's call it. So this is the name that you want your Cloud Run instance to be, so you can call it whatever you want. When you add that $sign in for project, I see things are working around down there nicely. And again, this needs to be PubSub listener, because this is actually pointing straight at the cloud repository, the container repository path that we're supposed to be pulling from. So that needs to be set correctly. And let's see, we've created our topic. We've built our build. It looks like it's successful. Let's paste in our command, and we can confirm that it was successful on in the GCR repository folder. If I can find it, this is Cloud Task Container Registry. That's right, Container Registry, not repository. And here we are. We have our live predictions one, and we have PubSub listener. So here's our push, and you'll notice that in the commands I haven't had to tag it with any versions on either one, which I've found to be really a nice convenience factor for Cloud Run. So definitely appreciating that. So we're seeing that this is not showing up, and that's by design as far as I understand it, because we haven't actually, we've basically secured this in such a way that we are not allowing public access. So if we go up to the way that this code is configured, maybe it's later. I remember seeing something about how we set this specifically so that oh yeah, if deploying on Cloud Run, respond no to the allow unauthenticated prompt. Now the question is, where was that prompt for us? I must have set a default at some point by accident. So this service will require authentication to be invoked, deploying, and so it's not directly open to the web. And so now we got to integrate it with PubSub somehow. And this part gets interesting. There's 4 things we have to do. And some of those 4 depend on other pieces, and some of them don't. So first, we need to enable PubSub to create authentication tokens in our project. And this is all because we said that Cloud Run was secured. Okay, that's the only reason. Because if it was just a URL on the internet that anyone can just hit publicly and trigger these PubSub signals, then the PubSub signal wouldn't have to be authenticated. It would be the same as any other HTTP GET or PUT. And so in order to do that, PubSub needs to be authenticated to call Cloud Run. And that means it has to have authentication tokens. And you don't want to create authentication tokens for PubSub. We want to enable PubSub to create its own authentication tokens. So that's what this first command does, is we are saying, hey, PubSub, you're allowed to create authentication tokens on my behalf. And so I think that is one of these first commands. Let's ignore that and just we'll build this out fresh. This is old stuff, and our new stuff is up here. So create auth token. Let's see, who's creating auth token? PubSub. Enable PubSub to create auth token. So that's this command. And we notice there's a couple of things we want to fill in. One is project ID, and the other one is project number. And you'll notice there's a dash here, so we need to get that sorted. So we have our project ID. We know the value of that. That's easy. Now project number is something we can in this case just copy paste. Where you'll find that is if you go to your Cloud Console homepage, your project number is this number. And so we paste that in. And so you'll notice it's service dash and then project number. Okay. Now, let's see what's next. So we want to run this command. So let's let that do its thing. Make sure that goes successfully. And we don't need this tab anymore. It says, for my user, I do not have permission, policy update access denied. Now that's just lovely. Why would that be? There should be something at the top that talks about kind of what permissions you need to have on a project in order to make this work. So, what do we have? Apparently it doesn't say that. So that's an interesting behavior, right? My recollection is that this account is authorized as a project editor. So that's reasonably, high, so to speak, in my opinion at least. Did I just click marketplace by accident? No, I didn't. That's good. All right, so we go to IAM, and I think at this point I will move it to the just me view while I take a peek under the hood. Let's see. If anybody is very knowledgeable on the kind of IAM front, I will happily defer to some of your judgment. So I'm thinking what I'll do here is go to the other account, the owner account, and give my kind of this presentation account that I'm using a little bit more privileges so that I can authenticate the key here, which again is odd that it wasn't allowing me to do it, but because what I'm trying to do is, let's see, gcloud projects, add IAM, policy binding, project ID, member is service account. Let me switch us back to the coding view. Is service account such and such, PubSub g serviceaccount.com, roles service account token creator. So at this point I've made this account the project owner, a co-owner as it were, and it still does not like me. Does not have permission to access project set IAM policy, or it may not exist. Policy update access denied. I wonder if it is more to do with, because if you look at what I had in my old notes, the first thing that this guide recommended that we do is to authenticate the project to Cloud Run. Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, at least the commands run in the same order. That's a relief. But why? It's also possible that the permissions are just taking a little bit of time to propagate. But if we are stuck in the first step of this policy creation, that would be unfortunate. Let's take a peek at the other guide and see if it has any thoughts on how we might better make this. So what I thought was interesting about this one is that it does it in a different order, right? There are 4 things, and instead of telling PubSub to be able to authenticate, to create authentication tokens to hit Cloud Run, it first goes about saying, let's create a service account of some name, you can call it whatever you want, and then bind that, give that service account permission to invoke Cloud Run. And then we come back to dealing with the PubSub side, and we run this command. It's the equivalent of what we just tried to run, of allowing PubSub to create authentication tokens. And then at the end, this is the last one for all of these different orderings, we connect the dots. We say we're going to allow PubSub to use the server's account we just created to create stuff to hit Cloud Run. And so basically if the commands that were given here, if we say that this is ordered kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, as in, where did it go? 1, create the thing. 2, create the service accounts, and then 3, bind it, and then 4, make the and then make the subscription. Did they? Oh yeah, this is subscriptions create to connect everything. So I think the order they did here might have been like 2, 1, 3, 4 in comparison. But either way, I really thought it was just a propagation issue. Sometimes the commands, these kinds of things, take a little bit of time to go. Ah, I see. It's because it was sent, but it's pending acceptance. So I will have to once again duck out, open up the email piece of this, and wow, I have a lot of emails in this thing from like last year. All right, join my project, accept my invitation, and then accept invitation. So now I should be able to do this. So we've accepted, and assuming that there's not further propagation timeouts, it works. Interesting. Okay, so that says a lot about what owner privileges give versus editor privileges. Okay, so I'm glad we resolved that. Phew. All right, let's continue on with the sequencing that they've given us in this guide. It's a little bit more prescriptive than the other one. You'll notice that this one gives like specific names and stuff like that, whereas the other one, it's a lot more kind of placeholder text that you can like put whatever you want, and it's a little less opinionated, but it is a little more general as a result. So this one, let's just call this, yeah, PubSub Invoker. That's fine. We'll just run it as is. So this is create a service account to represent PubSub. Okay. Service account to represent PubSub. And why the reason I'm tabbing these in is because it has this way of making this code font look nice. So I try to remember to do that when I can. And then we have Cloud Run. The last two here. Oh, we have a comment from the live stream. Sometimes roles do not specify permissions for specific tasks. Today I tried to give permission for Compute Engine. I had to create a role with the explicit permission. Oh, interesting. IAM server accounts act as. So there's a good note for that, of just like there are certain things you have to explicitly give permission to, not just implicitly give permission for. All right, cool. PubSub tutorial, PubSub Invoker at project ID. Okay, so there's a couple of things here, right? We have this project ID, which I don't know if I'll be able to get away with $ soft bracketing. Hopefully that works. We didn't call this Cloud Run service PubSub tutorial. If you'll recall, we actually called it PubSub listener. This is where, you know, changing things helps you understand what you know, what words in what parts of the command, what they mean, but not changing things can also help you, you know, have less trouble. So it's kind of a trade-off between, do you want to do things more kind of manually / run into errors? Let's see if I got away with it. Or do you want to match things up? Now I could have, maybe should have, given a command line name for PubSub listener, right, for this Cloud Run name. I just noticed in this command, right, it's gcloud run, referring to Cloud Run services at IAM policy binding. So that suggests to me that, you know, it is the PubSub service. And so finally, we want to create a subscription to that service account. Again, this one has a lot of kind of text replace to deal with. So let's get into that. So it says we have our, I really like the red text. That helps a lot. So what did we call our topic? Did we just call it my run topic, or did we call it something else? We called it something else. It was called new file. So let's do that. It's the first thing. My run topic is actually called new dash file. Hopefully the dashes are okay. I know there's certainly times when dashes versus underscores versus not having anything causes all sorts of issues. I need to find my Cloud Run URL. I think that was from a while ago. Let's refresh. That should give us our external URL somewhere. Here we are. So let's drop that in here. And you'll notice there's a slash at the end of it. That's on purpose. So we want to make sure we leave that slash there. You'll notice that it's service URL slash, and then push auth service account. So that's that service account that we've been creating. It's the same one as the one right up here that we were using. And so similar to before, I'm just going to add $, and wrap it in curly braces. Whoops, can't wrap it in curly braces like that. Do it like that, just like we did above up here. So that should do it for us in terms of creating that service account setup. Ba-bam. All right, so now we can do something with this, right? Hopefully all of these things, we've connected all these dots, we've created the PubSub topic, we've connected a subscriber to it, we have a Cloud Run, we've authenticated between them. Now it's time to, yes, it says your service is now fully integrated with PubSub. Yes, we got to try it out, right? So we want to push some kind of, we'll manually push a message into the PubSub queue. Now, our topic was called new file, which I keep spelling really weirdly. PubSub topics publish message runner. Sure, we'll say runner. Maybe we'll call this adventures. And we should be able to run that and get something back. So there's a couple of notes here about what we're expecting to have happen. Event not found. Bash exclamation. Why is it parsing the exclamation point? Funny. Okay, apparently I can't have exclamation. That's really funny. I think I bash escaped somehow, that's hilarious. All right, so we've sent this command. If anyone has an explanation for that, why I can't have an exclamation point in the middle of a quote there, that's funny. We've sent the thing, and now we should be able to see it in PubSub. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to scroll down to PubSub again. That's always a fun exercise. All right, here's PubSub. I'm gonna pin PubSub. It's high time that I admit that I'll be using PubSub a lot. Yeah, I can try escaping it and see. So let's call it Adventures version 2. Let's escape. Let's put the exclamation point. Enter. And there we go. Okay, so exclamation point, even in a quote, somehow screws up bash. I'm not familiar with / good enough at bash to really know why that might be. Export options have moved to create subscription dropdown. So here is our subscription, my run subscription. Oh, I didn't realize we didn't give it a better name. That's all right. We can, let's see, can we see the messages? Is that a thing? What does it say in the guide? Logs, right, logs. Oh, in the Cloud Run. Oh, they're telling us to go to the actual Cloud Run console. That makes more sense. What we'll see is that the Cloud Run service, hopefully, fingers crossed, spun up successfully and didn't like have a bunch of errors. Oh, here's our hello adventures. It even has an exclamation point the first time. That's funny. And then the second time we have the 2. So the exclamation point made it. And the second time it made it twice. Oh, it's because the code added exclamation point, I think. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know actually. World, hello. Oh yeah, it does. So you can see here, this is what is coming out in the logs. It's hello, and then it's putting the value and then putting an exclamation point at the end. So I got a little too excited and put another exclamation point in. What's funny, of course, is that escaped exclamation point got escaped. And so the escape / came through in the logs as well. So there's literally no way to print 2 exclamation points without that / in there as well. So that's a parsing issue. More importantly, we got to connect this to cloud storage. And so that's where the next guide comes in handy, right? This is all about how to connect or trigger specific topics. And we've linked our service account to this subscription, but we don't have a topic triggering from cloud storage yet. That's what we're missing, right? We have this PubSub topic somewhere. Where is it? PubSub sub. We have all these different topics. Now we have this new file topic, but this new file topic isn't triggering, like cloud storage isn't sending anything to this place. And so that's why we need one more piece of information. Let's see, cloud storage, notification, yeah, basically that. Apparently I have this open. Right, that was this tab. Did this? That was one of the ones that we saw at the beginning. Yeah, this whole notification config. Does this page talk about how to create one though? Yes, the M flag in the gsutil notification command. There's a better guide for this. PubSub notifications for cloud storage. Okay, let's look at these two. So basically what we're reckoning with here is that on one side we have cloud storage, on one side we have Cloud Run, and PubSub is in the middle. And there's no guide that really connects all three, but you can connect like two of them and then the other two, and then we'll have all three. So here's PubSub notifications for cloud storage. It doesn't connect it to Cloud Run, but we'll get the notification set up, which is a great starting point. So this is the format of that command, gsutil notification create. And we want to replace the values in the brackets with the right things. Yes, yes, yes. And the topic can be one that exists, and if it doesn't exist, it will be created for us. So we have one that exists. It's called new file. And so let's include that here. New file. And the bucket that we want to tie this to, let's do this one, US East 1 files, because it's an empty folder and will hopefully work. It's only one region though, so fingers crossed that that's not a constraint. Alright, so that's this. So let's create this. Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Create that, and this is the command line documentation. Okay, so this is the page that we want to look at here for cloud storage notification configs. And we can list notifications for a specific bucket. This can be useful if you need to pull up these values again, because you'll notice here, if you look at the return of that command that we just ran, create a notification config. And this long string right here, project / /bucket / US East 1 - files / notification configs /1 is the fully qualified name of this kind of notification config. And if memory serves me right from when I touched on this ages ago, it comes up as something you need. So now we can run gsutil notification list on this bucket and see all the notification configs we've created on this bucket. And so we can see that fully qualified name as well as the PubSub topic. So that is an important note. So now that we've created it, every time we add something in here, it should drop a signal into Cloud Run. So we got our logs here, we got our bucket here. Let us open a file. Adventures. We're in this branch. What's this? It's a picture. What's this? It's another picture. Great. That's a smaller picture. So I will choose the smaller. Oh, this is even smaller picture. 20 kilobyte picture. Gotta save that that bandwidth when you're uploading images. I mean, uploading live streaming video, right? So we've uploaded this thing. It is in my bucket. It's called puppy.jpg. And over here in the logs, one of the things about this log is you'll notice I'll kind of subtly scroll up and down to get it to re-trigger. It's not like Stackdriver where I can just say hit play. There's no play button. I just have to kind of like scroll up and down a little bit to get it to like nudge. So you'll see here, it's prepending the word hello, and there will be an exclamation point at the bottom. We can see the full body of this message. There's a kind, there's an ID, there's a self link. You see this puppy.jpg. This all just came in. So that's really nice, right? This means that it is receiving it. We're receiving it in our application, and now it is up to us to do something with that information. What's worth pointing out here, though, is that in this structure, you'll see in the code what it's doing is it's saying if where is it here? If it's an instance of a dict, and that did not work as well as I hoped. And all right. And data in PubSub message. So it's grabbing the data attribute from the PubSub message. And what it's doing with that is it's doing a base64 decode and then UTF-8ing it and then stripping out white space. And that's what's getting printed. So what I'd like to do is print out this PubSub message before we have indexed into the data field. So here I'm going to add print, and I'm going to put the PubSub message, and that's it. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Luckily, we've done a decent enough job with our kind of build and deploy loop. Cloud Run kind of helps take care of that for us so that we don't have to spend too much time worrying about that. What I want to show you is that in Cloud Run, in Cloud Storage, this notification that comes out, where is that page? PubSub notifications for Cloud Storage. Yeah, it talks about it in this page a bunch. And it never really makes it clear what is going on because it's all these tables you need to kind of like read through. So here are those notification configs. Basically, the point of all of this is event types, notification format. Yes. There are two parts. There's an attribute and a payload. And this idea of a payload, what they're really talking about is what's happening here when it grabs data. Different client libraries. Ooh, I have a syntax error. This isn't going to be good. This is what I get for not. Yeah, this is probably just crash looping right now as we speak. So if I scroll to the bottom, yeah, you can see here shutting down, working failed to boot. Here's our error. Yada yada yada. Okay, so that didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. Let's deploy again. My bad. The point here being, let's go back to where were we? Here, attributes and payload. In the code, it's grabbing this data field. So the Python client library uses the shows it as data. Payload is data. It's a string that contains the metadata of the changed object, and the attributes are all of these, and you'll notice that it's somewhat different from what we saw in the output of these logs, right? It's notification config. There's this event type field, which is important because there's all kinds of events. There's updated events, deleted events, and we only want to care about certain things oftentimes. And you can see there's a bucket ID and an object ID. And what we're getting here earlier, right, is there's ID, self-link, generation, content type, time created, updated, size. There's all of these, other fields. Where are they coming from? And more importantly, where are these fields? So these are attributes. They're key value pairs, and they're not in this data payload, right? And it says notification sometimes contains a following set of key values. There's also these two. And it depends kind of on which kind of notification it is. Now here's the payload, right? And there's two types of payload, and we need to specify what kind of payload you give. But yeah, in all the ones I've seen, it's always this one. And for object delete, the metadata contained represents the body's metadata as it was before the delete. Delivery guarantee. So it like glosses over this payload thing. Like all of our information was there, and it's just like, oh yeah, there's a thing that comes by. And so I really want to emphasize this point basically, right? And let's get to the bottom again. Scroll, and kind of go up and down like this until it kind of says it's done. And you can see it's booted successfully. That's what we want to see. And let's drop that file in again. So first things first, we don't have to delete it. We can if it makes you feel better, but we can just tell it to replace. And what it'll do is it will be a delete action, and then there will be a upload action. And so we'll see that here. And because we're not differentiating between delete actions and non-delete actions, it takes a second to kind of catch up. And we can kind of, there we go. Here's all of our things. And here's our signal, right? You have all of this as before, but now look at this. Because we printed it before the hello, there's this print statement. So I'm going to expand this and check it out. I'm going to copy all of this out until this 2. And we're going to go to a JSON formatter. And we're going to paste that in, delete this 2, hit process, and get this nice view. So we can see there's this attributes view. This is what we were seeing before. Oh, sorry, this is what we were missing before, right? So I'm going to minimize that just for a moment so you can see the full structure. Here's data, and look at what it is. It is a huge 64-bit encoded string, just as the code would have suggested. And it's this attributes field that might be of interest, especially this payload format, right? There's that none. If that says none, we don't expect there to be a data field. And more importantly, you see this event type, object delete. So we want to be checking for attributes, event type, object finalize, and only do something in the event of that. So you can see here the different types of events, and there's delete, there's update, there's archive. I want finalize. That's sent when a new object is successfully written in the bucket. And this includes copying or rewriting an existing object. And so that's what we want to see. So if we write some kind of dirty code, what we can do is we can say, and not even that bad, like let's not overdo ourselves here, and we can say if attributes with plural is in PubSub message, then we will do PubSub message at attributes, and we want the event type. And so if that is equal to object.finalize, not a dot, but underscore finalize, I guess we really shouldn't say, yeah, then we will continue and do all these other things. If it's not object.finalize, we don't do anything. We can just probably still want to do this, and we want to return the acknowledgement. All right, we'll keep in just because we don't have to make the prettiest of code, we'll just indent this in. I will set this out here, and so now we say if attributes has finalized, then we kind of inside of that do this, grab the thing, then we have a hello. If it's not, then we do nothing. And so then we just say, we can say, and we don't have to have this hello thing going, else we can print this as a note to ourselves, right? Delete operation. Actually, you know what? Let's just leave this out entirely. We don't have to do anything when there's nothing happening. We'll delete world. And what we want now instead is, I promised something about BigQuery. I don't know that we have the time for that particular piece. I mean, we need to print. Oh, we should still print the name, shouldn't we? Print. We're calling it name, but it's the values here, and the values that we care about from this output. Right? Are there any things in here? Sometimes you might want to get like event time or things like that, but truth be told, that's already kind of encoded in the time created or the time updated value, which is this is in the decoded form. And what you can do is potentially directly insert this into BigQuery. I'll show you what I did in the other project, just because we are running up against time. But basically, I went to the BigQuery kind of client library and used insert rows JSON. And I can never remember the exact way to initialize this properly, so this may or may not completely fall apart on me. So we're going to need to include this. So we're going to include that. What's funny to me is that we don't have to import the PubSub library. I don't really like, because like it just comes in as a HTTP like yeah, it's just the object by itself. But we do need to create a BigQuery client, which I'll do out here in the global space, because this server will kind of sit up on its own. And then we can do client.insert rows JSON, and we're going to need import JSON. And we can do, it's going to be a JSON string that's been decoded. So I think we can do load string name. Whoa, but we didn't even create the table yet. Yeah, so there's a couple extra steps in here that I didn't quite get to, but the the short of it is that we were able to, let's see if I can get this schema in text form, which I don't seem to be able to. It's in that other text file that we had. Ooh, maybe is it in this one? Oh, it's in this one. That we were fiddling with. We're trying to get this all sorted out correctly. It'd be interesting if it would have let me just insert directly into this one. I'm not holding my breath though. So we called this open images. And we're gonna create a data set. Go to data set. Add a table. Oh, we could share the other data set. That's what I should have done. And we're gonna call this, what did we call this before? Live images. Live images. Edit the schema as text. And have it all be nullable. Oh, we can actually just take this back. We can see it. All right, all parsed. Then we can create a table. So all of these, those are the columns from this data field. So it's all of these values here. And so in theory, totally super untested. Let's see, if I make the BigQuery client and I am where is this code? Now we need the import at the top. And then we have BigQuery.client, and I think we put a fully qualified table name here. How does it know which table to look at? I remember fiddling with this a little bit. Let's go back to the client library. So when you create the client, you can say project, you can say all of these things, but project is a starting point. Anybody got any thoughts? I don't know how much folks end up working with BigQuery. If I go to here, you can say table JSON, table. The destination or a reference to it. Well, yeah, that's great, but what format do you want? All right, let's do it this way. Client.this. So sometimes you can find sample code this way. I just wanted to see one example. Hey, it's Tim Swast. How is he doing here? Table. This is what we want. I wish it would tell us. Project ID, table name. Nobody tells us how the table names are set. So it's like a guessing game, you know. What do we set as the table name in the okay, so there's no insert name. This is all like using this might be where I got it from. Table ID. Aha. So when we do table, so we can do client.get table and we can get the table ID. Oh my gosh. So our table ID is project.dataset.table. So let's see, we call it GPU hot dot open images dot live images. Gotta love all the dashes and underscores. Lost in the details. Give a summary, yeah, and the snippets for their purpose. No, thank you, Tibor. So what I'm trying to do is insert the contents of the PubSub output into a table in BigQuery. And in order to do that, I need to set the schema, which we managed to do. And then once we set the schema, now I'm just trying to put together the code for doing that insert. And so what I'm trying to find is GPU open underscore images. I needed to properly name, specify the data set and table name, and I wasn't sure what kind of string it was looking for. So now we have client.getTable is set, and so we can see here table, and we can pass this table in as this table object, so to speak. If I can find the docs again, yeah, that's this first variable, and it's not a, oh, you can pass either one, but we'll pass in table, then we'll pass in JSON rows. So in this code down here, ooh, let's cut this actually and put this down here. So we're gonna get the table, and we're gonna load the table, and JSON.loads. Ooh, I put the JSON.loads randomly here. Insert rows JSON. Wow, I wrote some really bad code there. So it's JSON.load string of the name. So this should take this JSON contents and insert the rows. Let me kick off the deploy and we'll talk a little bit more about this code. Okay, so what we did was we took the existing base64 decoded string, which, as we saw in the Cloud Run logs, is a JSON string, and then we put name here into JSON form and pass it as the second argument to insert rows JSON. And the first argument is table, so we got our table from our BigQuery, which we just created. And then now that's deploying, and to test this, what we're going to do is, what we're hoping to see is that in this table, which is currently empty, we can see that this table is empty, the size is 0. When I drop a file, okay, so that's live. If I drop this puppy file into cloud storage, that it will trigger a PubSub signal, which runs a Cloud Run endpoint that we just deployed, which then pushes that information into this BigQuery table. So there's a lot of steps, and what we're going to be looking for is that it successfully runs or successfully crashes. It looks like we have successfully crashed it. All right, let's see. Failed to boot, but why? It just says, oh, that's not good. Okay, so the error here is around syntax error on line 3. Was this from earlier or now? It is from now. Okay. Oh, we are close, folks. We are really close. Okay, so the linter caught it. Can anyone identify what I wrote invalidly here? Oh, I didn't put the word if in front of it. Oh my goodness. So if is instance attributes, then we want if, and we go into attributes, and if it is finalized, then we do this thing. We were one indent off. Ooh. This should make the linter happy. And so it's saying, if we have attributes, and if the attributes is finalized, then we're going to go up a level and find data, still in PubSub message. All right, bear with me, folks. We are almost across the finish line. So this is one of the things that I've been wondering, right? Is like, is it better for us to really, fly by the seat of our pants, so to speak, and not have any kind of working code to reference, and just like be trying to find it and implement it like on the fly here, or do folks prefer to have something a little bit more prepared and be kind of talking through existing known good code? And it's kind of like just more a question around what kind of experience you're looking for in a lot of ways, right? Do you want something that's a little more raw versus something that's a little more, I don't know, pre-prepared, pre-created? Oh, okay, I see. It's subscription. I want to go to topics. I'm trying to find the content here. View messages. Select a subscription. Really? It can't find. All right, so that's all published, and let's go to the bottom, and did it work? So it's going to have a lot of errors for us to scroll past. Come on, scroll along now. Moving along, move along. Nothing to see here. All right. Have we caught up to the present day? It looks like we have, and we have this error. JSON rows argument should be a sequence of dicts. Oh, I've seen this before. This can't be just a single JSON. It needs to be a list. And even though we only have one row, oh, come on. We only have one row. It still has to be wrapped in a bracket, right? So it has to be an array, even though it's an array of one element. It wants it to be unpacked. I don't know. You can take it or leave it in terms of like, I feel like the Python library should be smart enough, like to not have to require me to do that. And maybe if you all agree, I will go and try to find the team responsible for this terribleness and say that if there's just one row and if it's just JSON, maybe don't make it a type problem. So Tibor says, that's a good question. For now, I have been watching a lot of videos related to coding, but it gives a high-level overview, but not gives the ability to deliver. Can you elaborate a little bit, Tibor, about what you mean by ability to deliver? Is that around kind of like going into like how to really do it and talking more about the kind of broad strokes and we're really doing the nitty-gritty here? Workshops are the best with some optional preparatory information and then a video session is what Tibor says. Workshops. So I'm going to keep scrolling here while we read here. Optional preparatory information. Okay, so I can put out some more stuff. Okay, it looks like we're getting some kind of print statements alongside some errors. My guess is that it's reading it in. Okay. I think it might have worked. What is... Okay, so I think it might have worked. Just because this printed, which is a good sign. I'm going to go to BigQuery and refresh this somehow or another. Let me try actually refreshing it, because I was like, in a previous one, we tried to do one with data flow and we were getting all these errors, and I wasn't sure if that was because, yeah, they actually ended up making an error table. Hey, look at that. Look at that thing. Puppy.jpg. What a beauty. And just for safety, I'm going to throw flower.jpg in there just for fun. So that's kind of a real workflow, right? What's important here is that at every step along the way, we're plugging together automatically scalable systems. So I've put that in. I don't know when this will refresh or if it will refresh. Might have to query table and just put a star. Worst practice ever, but it works. And what we're doing here, and there we have both, right? We have puppy and we have flower. That's great. Yeah, and so to summarize, what we did here today was we are putting together a bunch of self-scaling services. Cloud storage, triggering into PubSub, triggering into Cloud Run, dropping into BigQuery. Every single one of these along this path scales to size, so to speak. You're not going to find yourself bottlenecking on any one piece of this infrastructure. And so that's super important when it comes to thinking about deploying things into production, is that you don't want highly coupled systems where you're saying, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff right here in this moment, right? Even with Cloud Run, where you have the potential to do too much, all we're doing is we're saying, okay, here comes the PubSub signal, and there you go, BigQuery, insert it. You have BigQuery handle the insertion side of it, right? Deal with database. I'm not going to have a database in a compute engine cluster and work on that myself. I'm going to hand that off as an API call. And similarly, on the other side, when the data comes in, it's not coming into any sort of local disk. It's going into a distributed file system. And once that's been set, then and only then will it fire a signal via PubSub, which is itself a globally scaled notification system, into Cloud Run, which also can scale horizontally to lots of instances. So you can imagine I drop 1,000 files into cloud storage, all these PubSub signals fire, and then all of these Cloud Run instances spin up, and then it shoots down into BigQuery, and BigQuery is like, yep, got it, no problem. And that is what enables you to have a really a powerful system. I wonder if I can get away with this now, or we're over time. But what I want to do is I want to go into that persistent disk and copy like a folder of 1,000 files into cloud storage right now and just watch it populate into BigQuery. But perhaps we'll have to save those fireworks for another time. The final note from Tibor on the live stream. Thanks so much for engaging here. He says, or she says, not clear on the gender, I think workshops are best with some optional preparatory information and then a video session. This is my personal opinion though. The ability of delivering. When a task is to be reproduced, usually there is some divergence from the guide more or less, and there is some personal mistake and it takes to correct. Yeah. Take some time to correct. It's absolutely true. Even though we started today's journey on this comparatively straightforward, just getting started with PubSub with Cloud Run, and we kind of moved into talking about triggering and talking about cloud storage notification types, and then kind of sprinted it at the end here to get through to all the BigQuery content. So it definitely has been challenging to figure out what is the right size of material to fit into our 1 hour sessions together. So I appreciate that feedback, Tibor. And yeah, with that said, we'll be back on Wednesday, same time, same place, with our premiere episode of The Data Show with Felipe Hoffa and myself, and we'll be diving more into the Data Studio visualizations and how we can use BigQuery to manipulate the data to make better visualizations more reproducibly and more easily. So definitely be sure to check that out. Thank you to everybody watching on the live stream. Be safe, be well, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.